Welcome to another edition of Rabbitohs Radio. My name is Grant Chappell. I'm joined by my loyal co-host and friend, Brendan the Rabbit Taliski, all the way from the Central Coast. What's doing, Brendo?
G'day, Chapo. I'm going well, mate. How you been?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. It's been certainly really fresh down here on the east coast of Australia, mate. You obviously got some stories. You end up going down to the Raiders game, eh?
Oh, mate, it was pretty cold down in Canberra, let me tell you.
Yeah, wow. Well, tell us about your journey. Obviously, I just watched it at home, mate. But before we get into the game, tell us about the journey.
Well, a good mate of mine, I basically just met him online 4 or 5 years ago, a Rabbitohs supporter, similar to how I met yourself and Brownie, just through posting online. Justin Pu. He's a really mad Rabbitohs supporter. That he's based over in the Philippines now. He's lived over there for about 20 or 30 years, and he started up quite a successful business over there. And from time to time, he pops back to Australia and gets to a Rabbitohs game. And I've caught up with him for a few beers before at the North Bondi RSL and ended up having a big night with him that night. And he contacted me probably a month or two ago that he was going to be in Australia on the 8th of June and if I was interested in going down to Canberra with him. So I left my place on the Sunday morning pretty early, probably about 6:30, and jumped in the car, head down to the juniors there at Kingsford, and he picked me up and drove me all the way down to Canberra, mate. And we had a terrific afternoon down there. Other than the result, we went to a little Greek club down there and had a couple of Cooper Verners off the tap, a couple of nice cold schooners, and
Yeah.
little crumb lamb cutlet meal, chaps. It was really good, mate. We had a
Sounds
ball, and
wrong.
then obviously when you get to the game, mate, and you're 12-0 in front, Canberra feels like Cairns, but when you're walking out after a 36-12 defeat, you can certainly feel every bit of that -4 with the wind chill factor, let me tell you.
Cold as a witch's tit, eh? Down there. It looked horrible, mate. So, what was the temperature down there, mate?
Well, it was saying 3 degrees on the weather app, but with the wind chill factor down there at Bruce Stadium, they were saying it felt like -4.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
Mm.
Is that the coldest game you've been to? You've been to a lot of games over the years, Brendan?
Definitely, mate. I've said it to a lot of people, just over the last couple of days. It was definitely the coldest game I've ever been to, mate. I reckon it's about as cold as Nick Politis if he passed Blake Solly on the street, chaps.
Mate, that is frosty at the moment. I'll tell you that right now. With the Allianz Stadium debate going up. We won't get into that one right now, mate. But look, I'll just give my little views on the game. Obviously, it's team this Tuesday as well. We'll cover a bit of that. There's a couple of rumours later on, Brendan. Look, we started as good as you could possibly start. I thought the forwards just rolled up the middle. We had some good ruck speed. We created some good spacing and stuff like that, which started the first try. All that kicking game was pretty spot on, 9 out of 10 in that first 30 minutes. I think we had one off kick, but generally we just turned them around, trapped them in the in goal a few times, built some pressure. Cody Walker just waved that wand around for Alex Johnson's try. But that final sort of 7 or 8 minutes before half time, we sort of were under the pump. They had a couple of line breaks down out right edge. They picked on young Ty Munro, who I thought did a great job in his first game back. Obviously got a few defensive deficiencies, Ty, but for a bloke who, I think he only played the first half against the Dolphins, to come back straight away in the cauldron of GIO Stadium down there, I thought he was pretty strong. But the rest of the game, it just felt like we were running uphill and they were running downhill. It was just, we just couldn't control the momentum. Obviously, the loss of Cody Walker is a big one too, mate.
Oh, mate, the loss of Cody Walker was massive. I mean, he's such an instrumental part of our attack, and the way he held that ball up and he gave that ball to Alex Johnston for try 201, just the magic hands on Cody Walker. I mean, you got one of the greats of the game in Andrew Johns talks about the ball playing of Cody Walker, and he rates him as one of the best ball players that he's ever seen. That's coming from the eighth immortal. So when you haven't got a guy like Cody out, it's really detrimental to our attack, Chapo.
It's a pity. It's sort of taken away from his sort of legacy the last 12, 18 months. Is people are just talking about his injuries, but geez, he's been a great player for a long time, and it's just so sad to see him go off the other day after that long layoff. They really took their time with him this time, and he's come up with a different injury, sort of one of those old man injuries. He's had a calf injury a few times, a couple of slight hammies. Now he's having the groin tear. I'm not sure what they do with him, how long this injury is. Groins aren't something that you fix overnight. I think there's a lot of veteran players over the years have had those, and they just niggle and hang around. What are your thoughts? What do you think? Obviously, I think he's re-signed for next year by the sounds of it. But what do you think happens there, mate?
Yeah, obviously he's 35, 36 early next year. He's not getting any younger, Chapo. And, Father Time catches up with these players. And as you've said, he's been a terrific footballer for our club and definitely one of the best ball players I've seen in my time following the Rabbits. But, he is starting to become quite injury prone. But at his best, you know how good he can be and how many tries he can lay on for us. Like, I think without a guy like Cody Walker in this team since 2016 when he debuted, I'd be prepared to say AJ's probably only scored maybe 110, possibly 120 tries, chaps, when you look at the amount of tries Cody has actually laid on for AJ if you went back over the tapes, brother.
And again, in that game, AJ goes over untouched, holds his wing, holds his position really well, Alex Johnson, as he does. But you just got to look at the way Cody waved that ball around. Just held it up for an extra maybe second or a second and a half. And it was just enough for Savage to bite in and bang, the Magician's got that time. He's happy to wait that time and flip it over the top. And it was the perfect pass. And I just think that first 30 minutes we were so dominant. Nothing went Canberra's way. Everything went our way. I just felt like we needed 18 to 20 points, 18 to 22 points on the board. It may have been a different ballgame. Maybe we could build a bit more pressure. But once there was times in that game, Raiders started to play a little bit frustrated, a little bit rushed. You could tell we had them off their game. You could see how worried the bench was. But there's so much belief in this Canberra side. There's so much youth and enthusiasm and power and muscle in that team that eventually, once they got their own way, they started to just dominate. They dominated that ruck speed. They play the balls are so quick. They punch onto it so hard. Their line speed's good. All their kick chase was good. Ours sort of, unfortunately, was outstanding the first 30. The kick chase, the kick pressure, all the little 1%ers. But it kind of dropped off late as we started to fatigue. Trying to put those guys like Timoko on the ground or Savage or, big Joseph Tapani. That physicality of getting them guys down. It just wore thin on us in the end, and we just kept conceding try after try in that second half.
Yeah, very disappointing, chaps. I think we D'd up really well for the first 35 minutes of that game. We were really shutting them down. At times, we were shutting a big Canberra pack down, 35, 40 metres out from their own line. But in the second half, mate, they just started really poking their nose through. They were turning blokes back underneath, and they were poking their nose through the defenders. They were popping offloads. And all of a sudden, they started making 55, 60, 65 metres a set. And we were really on the back foot, mate. When that Sean Kepi got stripped one-on-one there, and they drew back level, then they drew it back to 12-all. I looked at Justin and his brother Nick. Shout out to those guys, terrific blokes at the game. And I said, look, this isn't good here. We've dominated for the first half of this game, and here we are here, back to 12-all, down at GIO Stadium on a cold, wet day. Canberra are going to kick into gear here. And unfortunately for the red and green faithful, chap, ourselves, that's what happened.
Yeah, it did, mate. They just had a few things. Like I think there was one where Latrell Mitchell tried to play the ball and they pulled him down kind of thing, and he sort of got up and half played it, and they ruled a knock on there. The Raiders player in the second half, Timoko, did this. Was it almost identical carbon copy?
It was,
and he penalised them. They sort of got a couple of lucky things go their way. But we were too passive on the line. Once our goal line defence, we're waiting for them to come to us, and they just picked that apart. It was honestly, it was a frustrating game to watch, Brendan. Look, Keon Kalomatangi, another really good performance. But I don't know if he's, just speaking of the interchange, I don't know whether he needs to be on the field for 71 or 80 minutes every week. I think we've got to be able to trust our bench. Guys like your LeBlancs, your Hubners, I think they can stay on the field longer. Maybe get him off at that 30. Can we get Keon off at that 30-minute mark? And that's where we lost the game, from the 30-minute mark. You know, you got big guys like Keon, 116 kilos, still on the field. Yeah, they sort of picked on him at that stage. They start going at him, working him over, working over our middles. You know, I'd like to see him, you know, have a look on the other side of the fence. Joseph Tapani, 50 minutes, Brendan. Pretty much gave out the same stats per metre, metres per run than Keon did, but was a bit more effective in his defence because he was only on for 50 minutes. Poor old Keon did 48 tackles, no misses. Does he need to do that many tackles? You know what I mean? Like, you're taking away his effectiveness by keeping him out there too long. And we don't have a hell of a lot of front rowers at the moment that are in great form. Junior's still trying to find his feet. I don't know if he's recovered fully from that foot injury. He sort of hasn't. He's lost a bit of foot speed off the mark. Big Kepi, thought he had 2 nice runs his first stint, but then he got stripped and he loses confidence, Kepi. Then he missed a couple of tackles. There was certainly a bit of frustration there in that final 30 minutes. Now, I don't want to single any players out. I'm sure everyone will put their hand up.
Yeah, definitely, chaps. I think the bench rotation there could have been done a bit differently on the weekend. I mean, I'm not here to sort of question the great man Wayne Bennett. I love the bloke.
No, me either.
So happy he's in charge at our club, but I'm not sure Keon needed to play 80 minutes. And you talked about the impact of Joseph Tarpany. Another guy that I want to talk about was the man of the moment down there, 319 games, big Josh Papali'i. Now, he only played 39 minutes. And when he come back on for his second stint, chaps, he's pulling through tackles, mate. He scored 2 tries, just one off the ruck. He only played 39 minutes. And at the end of the day, he had a bigger impact on the result of that game than Keon did. And Keon played for 80. And I'm not knocking what Keon did, because he showed enormous ticker on the weekend to take our team forward and do everything he could. But unfortunately, we don't have other bigger bodies going with Keon. And my big thing is, I know a lot of people disagree that are at the Rabbits Club, pulling the strings, but I think we need 1 to 2 big middles to go with Keon. I think Keon's proven that he can be a really good middle. I mean, have a look. He's in the extended squad for Origin again. But I think we need 1 to 2 big middles to go with Keon, mate, and really start stemming the tide when we're playing teams like your Melbournes, your Cronullars, your Canberras. Your Warriors. If we want to compete with them, we need a couple of real big athletic middles, guys with footwork, can pull through the line, can get an offload away, and guys that can whack up in defence. And we need, a play one prop off a kickoff that's just going to blaze into them, chaps. And we've been missing that guy for a few years, mate.
Yeah, it's not only that. I mean, middle forwards, that's an obvious one. We need probably 3 or 4, over the next 12 months or 18 months or 2 years. Wayne's here for 3 years. I believe he's looking to extend a further 2 seasons. So I think there's a bit more work to be done here than he first thought. So I just think they need younger, stronger, fitter, musclier players, like blokes who are just very hard to handle. You need more Timokos and obviously Ethan's, Lestrange and all them blokes. Like, how good are those blokes? Lestrange. Unbelievable. Man, even that whole back line, they are young, fit, strong and fast. Now, we've got guys like Penatani and Mellors certainly knocking on the door. Jai Gray was good. We'll talk about that one game a bit later. Look, Davey Mwale, I think against the Warriors, they had Jai come off and go back on the field before Davey even got a run, and then he got dropped. I'm not saying Davey didn't deserve to get dropped. He's probably seen something I haven't seen, but mate, he was outstanding against the Raiders when he got dropped. That's what you want to see. A bloke who goes down, pretty much he topped the meters for all the forwards there. 151 metres from 16 carries. He had the most post-contact metres in the game, 69 post-contact metres. He comes back in when we get to Teamless Tuesday. We need another 4 or 5 of them blokes banging on the door, desperate to get a run, We're just lacking a little bit of punch at the moment. Besides, obviously, Keon Kalamatangi has certainly led in that regard. I think couldn't be more happy with Hubner. I thought Talis Duncan's running game was probably the best it's been in a while. I thought he looked effective. He sort of broke through the first couple of tackles. Saliva Havili, I reckon he's better as a middle, either a lock or a front rower. I know he's done a good job there bending his back at hooker, but he's at that age now. I think he's probably more of an effective middle than some of the other players we got.
Definitely, chaps. I mean, I love Harvey. I think he's been brilliant for our club over the last 3 or 4 years. He can score a try from close range, and he's actually got us back into a couple of games, just burrowing over close to the line. But when you look at a team like Canberra and the other top 4 teams I've mentioned, they've got electric speed at a dummy half. So when Canberra started to find elbows and knees and they really started to win that ruck in that game, you got blokes like Tommy Starling and Owen Paddy jumping off the back of that, mate, and just pouring through the middle of us. And unfortunately for the Rabbits, because we don't have that go-forward power and we also don't have that speed out of dummy half, that's when we really start to get beaten. And I think it's an area that we really need the speed out of dummy half and a couple of really big middles. I think most supporters can see that's what we need.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple coming, but they're a few years away in terms of the hooker position. I believe they're in the market at the moment, negotiating with a few young blokes in the hooker position. Just about every position they're trying to upgrade for every grade from 17 through to first grade. So I'm sure they'll release all that information in due course. Look, we've got a pretty good squad at the moment. I think there's going to be probably turnover of 6 or 7 players at the season's end, and maybe a few more in the year after. They'll eventually get the roster to the shape they want, that Wayne wants. But look, we've got some pretty good young players there having a crack. I think we're pretty lucky to grab a guy like Lockie Hubner. I was very impressed with what I've seen from him this year. Jamie Humphries has been a revelation coming over. Pretty much a reserve grader at Manly. He's come over. He's jumped into 7 position. Look, he hasn't. Him and Bud Sullivan are exactly the same when it comes to try assists this year. They both had 2 only, even though Bud's only had a few games in the halves. Mainly come off the bench at the start of the year. Jamie missed a few games. So I think this weekend they've got an opportunity to, if we flip it over to Team List Tuesday, Brendan, we've got an opportunity to take the game by the scruff of the neck and put some plays and put some tries on, because 2 try assists at round 15 is not enough from Jaden Sullivan and Jamie Humphries. Latrell sort of can be a bit dominant. You've got Jai Gray coming back, who's going to certainly create a lot of energy from the back there. Brendan, which we've seen, we know he's going to give you everything he's got. Had a fantastic game, but couple of good guys to be excited about there.
Definitely, mate. We know that Jai Gray, what he's going to bring, mate. He's terrific under the high ball. He blazes back into him with a carry, mate. He runs 1,000,000 miles an hour. And one thing I like about Jai Gray is he's always sniffing around the middle of the ruck, looking for an offload. And we saw it in that Roosters game where Jaden Bud Sullivan there was one of his try assists. He pulled through the line. He got past Angus Crichton. And who was there? Our little mate in the headgear, Jai Gray, mate, under the 6. And, he's got those sort of moments in him, and we've got to hope that he brings his A game, which I'm sure he will against the Doggies on Sunday, chaps.
Yep, he will. Look, another one probably in this one is obviously Davey Mwale back at forward, and looks like he's named a 4-man bench. Not sure if he likes a 4-man bench, Wayne. An interesting one on the extended bench, the journeyman, the worker, that Ryan Gray. He's a hooker. Former Australian schoolboys hooker. I think he had 50-something tackles the other day. He's just one of them blokes who just goes all day. Whether or not he gets an opportunity, I'm not sure what his contract situation is. I know he's a second-tier player. He has at times. I think he had a training trial during the off-season, so maybe they put him back on a training trial if that's the way they want to go. Surprised Thomas Fletcher's name's not there. I thought he was pretty strong in the Reggies the other day, and Hazen Mellors, but they've put Myers there. It's pretty much a similar lineup when you just take Latrell and Cody out. And obviously Campbell Graham never played last week anyway, but he's named on an extended bench. Not sure whether he plays or not. He was out with back spasms, late scratching. Actually, at the captain's run, he did the last 10 minutes of the captain's run, he walked off and took his shoes off, and Cashy noticed that. Me mate Cashy, and And he said, "Oh, what do you reckon about that?" And I said, that'd be all right. I didn't think anything of it. And then sure enough, yeah, it was enough. Maybe he pulled out with back spasms. Because it was a pretty good effort also. Jamie Humphries could only do about 5-10 minutes of drills of the captain's run. That's how bad his cork was. Talis Duncan was carrying an injury too. He sort of did really well to get through 80 minutes carrying an injury. He couldn't do the full captain's run either. So there's a bit going on there, Brendo.
Yeah, mate, Jamie Humphries did really well to play, especially under the injury cloud, and you've already wrapped him up sort of 5 or 10 minutes ago, but I really liked Talis Duncan's physicality on the weekend. He put a couple of shots on, and as you mentioned before, he really run that ball with venom, chaps, pulled through a few tackles, and I think it was probably up there with Talis's best game in first grade for mine.
Yeah, that's a fair statement, mate. This year I'd say he's had some good games in the past. I mean, that game against the Dogs where we pretty much scored off the kickoff due to Big Tal there, off a little spread set. Look, obviously the Bulldogs, on the other hand, they're coming off they were very impressive. Just an absolute powerhouse side, the Bulldogs, where they were in an arm wrestle for about 10, 12 all, sort of got to that. There's a couple of intercepts, but eventually they just kept doing that same thing. Line speed in defence, kick pressure. When they get the ball, they do good ruck speed. Their back five really roll out really well. They keep it down the middle. There's not a lot of spreads. They kick to the corners. They all bolt down there. They belt them, and they get bored doing it. Eventually, the opposition gets bored doing it, and they pile the points on like they did yesterday. They just a bit like that 2014 South team, Brendan. We played very similar. Wasn't exactly an expansive brand of football that Michael Maguire had us playing. And if you look at that grand final, that was almost identical to the Parramatta game yesterday. Wasn't much in it. 15 to go. We kicked away and scored a couple of tries at the end. Pretty similar score too.
Definitely, chaps. I mean, they complete their sets, they run hard, they tackle hard. But the thing is, they don't give the opposition anything. The only time they've conceded points this year is when they've had 9, 10, 11 key players missing out of their side. Otherwise, they're only conceding on average of 10 or 12 points. You've really got to work hard for your points against them. And that's where we've got to be good this weekend and really play, I believe, some off-the-cuff attacking football to try and ambush these guys and, put 10, 12, 16 points on early and have them second guessing themselves because they are going to be missing a few key players due to Origin chaps. So if we are ever going to beat the Bulldogs, I think this week is probably our best opportunity.
Yeah, well, they've had to make a few changes, obviously. Mann, Burton, King and Crichton unavailable due to state of origin because he's 18th man, Burton. And just looking at their side, I just want to give a rap to Connor Tracy, one of our former players. Never got to make it at the Bunnies, but come over with a chance there. And he's had 3 or 4 knee reconstructions before he made his debut to make 100 games. And I thought he was outstanding yesterday, a bit of a forgotten man. Everyone just thinks the Bulldogs are going to replace him, but I think he's a great young player. Connor Tracy. And on the other side, you got in the halves, you got Lockie Galvin. Well, I've got a massive rep on Lockie Galvin. I think he's going to be a star of this game. He'll eventually take over in the halves there somewhere full time. Obviously, he's taken Burton's spot this week. Sexton went to 9. He jumped in. As soon as he jumped in, they broke the game open, basically. He's just a great ball runner. He's got incredible ball skills. He's someone we're going to have to contend with on the weekend.
Yeah, Lockie Galvin, mate, he's definitely a superstar. I mean, in this day and age with the pathway systems we've got in place and obviously New South Wales Cup now is getting stronger, to actually be playing in the NRL as an 18 or 19-year-old boy is quite incredible. And you're talking about this bloke's already got nearly 35 games, almost a season and a half under his belt. And in a lot of those performances, he's had a major impact, chaps, on the result of the game, this young kid.
Yeah, he certainly has. I mean, his first year, he had 16 try assists as an 18-year-old. I don't think too many people have ever done that in the game. They weren't doing stats when Freddie Fittler was around. He was a pretty candy 18-year-old. I don't reckon he had 16 try assists in his first year, though. Plus, he was playing, I think he started in the centres when his first year. Look, I think Nathan Clear, I went back and looked at his stats. He only had 7 or 8 in his first year. So there's a comparison there.
How many TAs did you tick up for the Maroubra Lions back when you were 17, 18?
Oh, I don't think there was too many, mate. I was probably more like Jamie Humphries or Bud Sullivan, just 2 on the season, mate.
Oh, you don't want to overdo it, chaps.
Yeah, they're a little bit thinner on the bench than what they have been in previous weeks. But look, again, it doesn't matter who we play. If we haven't put an 80-minute performance together this year, we've only scored 30 points in a game once this year. It was against the Warriors when we got beat. Again, we only scored 12 points on the weekend. We've got to find a way to score 20 points against this Bulldogs side to give us a chance. You've got to think the Bulldogs will put some points on with halves like Sexton and Galvin and Bronson Cherry's out wide. And I mean, the other bloke I want to give a rap to in that played the other day, looks like he's out. He's in the centres this week. Jacob Carraz, very hard man to handle, carries strong, always got an offload on him. Just an incredible work rate. So I'll be looking to try and contain him at some stage.
Yeah, mate, Jacob Heroes, he bounces off defenders. He gets that big Inspector Gadget arm out the back, hitting guys like Burton and guys pouring through the middle. He is really, really hard to handle, Heroes. And getting back to what you said about scoring points, chap, on the weekend, the great Darren Brown, DB, shout out to you, actually said that he thought for 60 minutes against Canberra, we competed probably as hard as we've competed this year. But unfortunately, to show for that effort, we only had 12 points. And like you said, if we want to compete with these top dog teams, we need to be looking at getting your 22, your 24, your 28 points on the scoreboard. We were able to do it against Penrith, and the game was over at half time early in the year. Look, I know Penrith were down some key players that night, similar to the Bulldogs this weekend, and we actually came out and we dominated the game, but we were also able to get points on the board. And at 28-0, that game was over at half-time, chaps.
Yeah, true. Look, it's been one of those years. We knew the roster was going to be, it's not really a top 4 roster. It's a roster that just has had a real crack this year. They've been outgunned on a number of occasions. They're probably not as strong, not as physical. I think that's probably an area where we could certainly improve recruitment-wise. How do you see this one going, Brendan, this weekend? It's a Sunday 4:00 game. We've had a couple of those in a row now, 3 in a row on a Sunday. I'm going to get myself out there. Certainly, it's a home game for the Rabbits. And one thing I've got to query is why aren't South selling $10 tickets like the Bulldogs have the last couple of big games?
Yeah, mate, I agree with you. Like, if we can give fans that aren't season ticket holders, etc., an opportunity to buy a $10 ticket and get a bit of red and green in the house, because I was there on Good Friday, as I know you were, and the Bulldogs had us outnumbered 95% to 5%. There was just blue and white all through that stadium. And, 2 or 3 months later, we've got the home game. It'd be good to see a bit of Cardinal and Myrtle in the stands out there and get a few of our fans there, chaps.
Well, why not? I think we've got 30,000 members. I haven't checked the count lately, but why not give each member 2 tickets for free to bring a friend, or 1 ticket? You get 1 ticket to bring a non-ticketed member with you. They have to obviously sit in the general public, but I thought that'd be an initiative. Or if a member can buy, a couple of tickets for $20, 3 tickets for $20, or some promotion like that. Because I really think we need to fill these grandstands, because the Bulldogs had 59,000. It was only about, again, wind chill factor 5 degrees the other day, yesterday. It was an incredible crowd for the weather. So you'd like to think we can get at least 35 out there. Would that be too big an ask? I don't think it is. 35, 40 would be a nice one to crack. Out there on a Sunday afternoon, 4:00, plenty of time to get out there. I know one thing this time, I won't be driving out there. I'll be getting public transport. It'll be much easier for myself.
And for any Rabbitohs fans that think it's too cold or too far to travel, Homebush will feel like Cairns compared to Bruce Stadium, Canberra, let me tell you.
Oh, that That was a bloody good effort from all you guys. I mean, Adam Sampson made a last-minute ditch down there. Obviously, Kempy and all the crew made the effort down there. Made of mine, Ryan Early and the crew. They all braved the conditions, and none of them are complaining. They all said they had a good time. It was worth going. And a big rap to the South Sydney football team. Big Papa had a big celebration after it, and well done to him. What a great gentleman he is of the game. And it was half an hour after the game. It was freezing cold, bit of rain still hanging around, and the entire South Sydney team and coaching staff got out there and got part of the presentation. So pretty classy from the Rabbitohs. Well done in a well-beaten side. So I want to take my hat off to them.
Yeah, mate, that's excellent. They hung around for Big Papa, and what a milestone for him. And you can see how passionate all the Canberra fans are down there about that record being broken. And
Yeah,
obviously,
they are.
obviously the great Ricky Stewart, he almost had tears in his eyes. And I think from a lot of things I've read online and heard over the years is Ricky Stewart treats these players and their families like his own, and he's a really, really good guy, and he's really done a lot with guys like Joseph Tarpany, Hudson Young, and now you got these sort of guys that are playing for New Zealand. Hudson Young's playing for New South Wales, and he's really nurtured a lot of these guys, chaps, and they're reaping the rewards now, mate.
And they've got some good young teams coming through. Obviously, I've called a few of their Pathways games, and some really good forwards coming through. We might even get to the Pathways now, mate. And the boys are playing for the Mortimer McCarthy Cup this weekend. So prestigious, couple of great names of rugby league. Now, in the New South Wales Cup, we've only won 2 games going into that game, which was actually the game after the first grade game. We started about 4:15, I think it did. We actually knocked them off, mate, 24 points to 12. So it was a good effort from the boys down there. And there was some pretty good performers. I thought Fletcher Myers had his best game. He ran for over 200 metres. He had a couple of intercepts and scored a pretty long-range try. Just showed a bit of energy. He sort of looks a bit lackadaisy sometimes. He just showed a bit of energy and had some good footy. Penatani always impresses me. He ran for about 160-odd metres, pretty quick, good power carries. The halves went well. Louis Dodd had a good game with his kicking game. Not a great defender. We know that he got monstered one-on-one and that bloke trampled him to score. But he's probably not there for defence. He's there for his kicking game. Like to see him run the football a bit more. Ward was good. Obviously, Ryan Gray, we spoke about him. Thomas Fletcher was playing really well. Copped a bit of a head knock past the HIO, I think it was. Came back on the field. Come up with a couple of really big tackles under pressure at the back end of that game when the game was in the balance. So, there was some really good performers in that cup side, mate.
Yeah, mate, from all reports, a couple of those tackles from young Thomas Fletcher were very vital with the result on the line, and a couple of those tackles helped us win that game, chaps. I didn't see the game personally. I was back on the Hume Highway, then thawing out with the air conditioner on about 48 degrees. But,
Yeah.
But I heard Tommy Fletcher had a good game, and shout out to his dad Nick, a good mate of the show too.
Yeah, great family, the Fletchers, mate. And Hazen Mellors doing nothing wrong. Every time you see him, he's certainly doing something pretty special. He's Jai Gray skipped down the short side. You can have a look, go and look at the shorts that I put up the other day. Caught a ball well above his head, high pointed the ball, skipped down the touchline, beat a couple of blokes. Strong enough to pull out of the fullback's tackle and score. Still some good yardage carries. Again, they do dropouts. And one thing in our first grade team, we didn't contest the kick very much. We lost 2 dropouts where we gained a dropout. The opposition dropped out to us, lost both of them. Sebastian Krish tagged one back. We couldn't seem to come up with a high ball down that short side. I think they sat on their heels. Another one, Alex Johnson was outleapt. This bloke you will not outleap Hazen Mellors. It's not possible. You're one of the best leapers I've ever seen. So he cannot be far away from the game.
He's quite an athletic guy, and we've spoken
he's incredible athletic.
A number of years now, chaps, about athletic guys with the agility, with the speed, and guys that compete on every play, like you were just mentioning about those kicks. Mate, we need a guy like that in the NRL team, and I think his name's been bandied around quite a bit over the last few years, but he's just been unlucky with injuries, chaps.
He has, yep. He's been performing pretty well. I think he's only had probably a couple of quiet games. Generally, he gets involved, and now for some reason the Raiders really targeted him. They kicked at him the whole time. Didn't kick to the other wing. They just kicked down his throat all day, and mate, he gobbled everything up and really proved them wrong. 138 run murders. I think he even had a couple little kicks during the game. He had a line break. Mate, he played some pretty good football, so he's one to look out for. And I want to give a rap to, he ended up jumping on the wing late when Tyrone Munro pulled out, but Amaron Gudgion, he's a WA Koori boy. He's been at a few different clubs, but he was outstanding in that game. Come up with a loose ball pickup, scooped on it, went down and scored off the back of a Louis Dodd kick. Everything he did was quality. He had an offload which led to a try, so he handed 3 tries, young Gudgion. He's certainly a prospect, and he looked so happy. He was just the celebrations because they haven't won a lot of games. I was really happy for this young cup team, and they've got a tough task this week playing the Bulldogs, but they've got a few outs obviously because they're going to have a few blokes playing up in first grade this week.
Yeah, so that might be an opportunity once again for the cup team to grab their 3rd win there, Chapo.
Yep, for sure. And now the flag was played at Belconnen the day before. We played some good footy. I think Daniel Wright had a couple of tries. The halves played pretty well. Nicholas Quinn, Matty Humphries combined. But again, they were too big, too strong like first grade. Like our wingers, Jacob Fong, he'd be about 85 kilo. Their winger was 105. Like it's a no contest, you know what I mean? Their forwards are huge. But our boys gallantly just kept turning up, kept trying their guts out. Because they just couldn't hold their ruck speed at times. But anyway, they've made a few changes this week. They keep bringing up those 19-year-old boys from the SG Ball. Charlie Point was a good performer again on the weekend coming up. Looks like Zane Ruggles is back. And I want to give a rap to Johannes Logan, a young front rower from Orange who he would have probably played in that State of Origin team that's picked a week ago, the under-19s. Had he not been, he just hasn't played a game since probably 1 or 2 games before the end of the season. He got injured, him and Elijah Keung. So he gets his first opportunity in the Jersey flag, and this front rower can go, Brendan, in offense and defense.
Good country kid from Orange, eh? Bring him on because we were just speaking before, if we can develop some front rowers over the next couple of years, chaps, that's the position I think we really need to fill, mate.
He lives with Liam LeBlanc, the star bench player, Liam LeBlanc. So anyway, a couple of names to look out there for this weekend. We played them a month or 2 ago, the Bulldogs. We really flogged them 34-6. We had a really good game, so we're looking to try and get back on the board there. Now, we've got a couple of rumours that have popped up the last 24 hours. Looks like we missed out on Tyler May. We offered him a training trial a couple of weeks ago. He shopped it around. He obviously wanted the Tigers, ultimately. He might have got a bit more money on his training trial deal out of the Tigers. The base minimum you can pay him is $1,200. Maybe you got a little bit more. Maybe you got some rent paid for him or something like that. But anyway, good luck to Tyler May because he's going to go back and play with his brother. Disappointed on that one. We missed out there. But Selwyn Cobber sounds like he's met with Wayne Bennett. Big, powerful thing. Almost in the mould of Greg Inglis. Thoughts on him possibly coming down to the Bunnies next season?
Oh, mate. Selwyn Cobbo, what a 22, 23-year-old, big, powerful, Indigenous young man, outside back, try scorer. I think I punched his name into Google today when we were linked to him, chaps. He's, I think, 79 or 80 appearances for the Broncos for 48 tries, mate, already in his young career. And as I said to you, I think 5 or 6 games of State of Origin for Queensland so far. These are the sort of guys, younger guys, that let's hope we can attract under Wayne. And, mate, if we can get Selwyn Cobbo, I'll be doing cartwheels.
Yeah, he's certainly a player that I'd love to get. I always thought he'd end up staying at the Brisbane Broncos, but I don't know, maybe when there's smoke, there's fire. We'll see what happens there. Not sure exactly what his contract situation is. Is he off contracted the following year? Is that right?
Yeah, I'm not sure with his contract situation, but I did read where he's from. He's actually from Cherbourg, another one of the great Rabbitoh entertainers from quite a number of years ago, Chris Sandow was from Cherbourg, Chapo.
The great man, yeah, Chris Sandow, one of the, I don't think anyone always say it, but no one played with more spirit than Chrissy Sandow. Anyway, I just Googled it there. He's actually off contract. This is his final year at the Broncos. Selwyn Cobbo. So if he hasn't committed to Brisbane at this stage, it's probably unlikely that he will. He's had pretty much since they could have signed him prior to November 1. Doesn't seem happy up there. He had to play second grade on the weekend. Could he possibly fly the coop up there at the Broncos and come down and play for the Rabbitohs? I certainly like that. Gus Gould spoke the other day how Wayne and the Rabbitohs have been pretty active in the market. I know for a fact they've been interviewing a lot of players from all different clubs, all different levels, lower grades, first grade, people, other teams' top 30s. They still want to add a player, I think, before the end of this June 30 deadline. Not sure whether they'll be able to do that or not. There's also a rumour we're close to signing a veteran player, a veteran forward from Newcastle Knights. I won't say his name. I'll let you work that one out yourself, but he's been tossed around the traps as well, mate. Who's someone you'd like to see there next year, Brendo?
Oh, look, mate, I'd just like us to get a really big athletic middle forward, sort of between your 105 to 110, 115 kilo range, if we can grab one. A name I'll throw at you that was in the Penrith system and then went down to the Melbourne system with Bellamy and played about 10 or 12 games there, including the grand final last year, is a bloke by the name of Lazarus Valeeppu. Now,
Yeah, I like him. Yeah.
really good on his feet. Scored a long-range try, I think, about halfway through last year for Melbourne. Commentators were absolutely raving about the pace and the skill set of the big man. And these sort of characters are guys that can blow a game open. And
Yep.
big Lazarus Valeeppu, Chapper, he's my man. I mean, I know that we have had a few rumours about possibly being linked to Tui Kamika. There was also rumours there a couple of months ago about Big Nelson, Asafa Solomona, but none of this has really come to fruition at the moment. And both those guys are sort of more towards the back end of their career. With Big Lazarus Valeeppu, I think he's only around 25, chap. So he's a guy that could really thrive under Bennett. And as the old saying, mate, the front rowers don't really come into their prime till about 27, 28. So if we picked up Lazarus, mate, he's got plenty of time to develop into the sort of player that Wayne wants and needs at the club.
Yeah, 120 kilos he is, 190 centimetres, off contract at season's end. Yeah, he fits the bill. He's not going to break the bank. He's a good young player. There's Isaac Jim, I think his name is, at Parramatta, under-19s SG ball player, absolute bully, schoolyard bully. I'm sure he wouldn't break the bank. Go and get someone like that. Bishop Neal, he's probably the strongest 17-year-old I've ever seen from the Warriors where they won the comp this year. Go over and grab someone like that. Cassius Tia from the Bulldogs. He's probably got his nose out of joint now. They've just signed Lockie Galvin over the top of him. Mitchell Woods is still being developed. Played pretty good on the weekend. Where does that leave Cassius Tia? A bloke who's won back-to-back Jersey Flag titles with two different teams. He's got a great kicking game, good running game, power game. He's also played in the centres, halfback, 5'8". I wouldn't be surprised if that's someone we're looking at, Cassius Tia.
Yeah, mate, all those guys you mentioned to be ideal. And I just think that our depth at the moment, you mentioned with the New South Wales Cup team only winning 2 games, our depth at the moment probably isn't where it needs to be. So if we can get a bit more of a well-rounded 30, 32-man squad where we've got a real lot of talent to pick from, I think that's when we can start looking at making the top 4. And another name I'll throw up is we did have a couple of years ago a no-frills front rower by the name of Mark Nichols that I really think thrived under Bennett and, just bumped it up, not many errors. He was a bit of a try scorer too, Mark Nichols. There's another guy off contract at the moment that I think Bennett would be able to get quite a bit out of, and you'd be able to pick him up for cheap by the name of Fletcher Baker. I think
he goes all right.
I think debuted for the Roosters, and now he's up at Brisbane, and he's a bit out of favour up there. He's obviously not playing in the first grade team, but I think another guy you'd get plenty of value out of, you wouldn't have to pay much for him, is Fletcher Baker.
Yeah. Mate, there's plenty of good players out there, mate, playing Cup. You can go for... Look, the big teams at the moment, probably the Raiders have got a great system. The Bulldogs have got a great system. We know the Panthers have sort of been stolen. A lot of people have stolen players out of them, but Parramatta's got a really good pathway system at the moment, very competitive and strong, and nearly top 4 team in every grade. The Warriors are a top 4 side in first grade. They're leading the reserve grade. They won the 17s. Look, they're the sort of teams that you've got to go knocking on the door and see if you can find something. So, anyway, we might leave it. We'll talk all night, Brendan. That's what we do, talking Rabbitohs here. Brownie's he's got a bit of a thing on today, wasn't able to make it. And Big Les had his footy training and he had a dinner. So, we're lucky enough to get one of the best characters in South Sydney, especially among the fans, mate. We're lucky to get Brendan Taliski. Thanks for joining us, Brendan. I appreciate you giving us some time, mate.
No worries, and just a big shout out to yourself and Big Les, and Big Les is kicking goals with his footy club, and big shout out to you, DB. You're all great blokes, and I love what you do for the club, and I always love having a chat with you. Thanks again.
No worries, mate. That might be about it for another edition of Rabbitohs Radio Podcast. Up the mighty Rabbitohs.
Go the Bunnies.